My name's Henry Henderson, and this summer I completed the Mongol Rally, which is a charity drive from London through Mongolia into Russia. Obviously a big concern of ours was we knew pretty much nothing about a lot of the countries we were going to. Once the further and further east we'd had very little experience sort of about what the cultures were going to be like and really what was going on, and it wasn't a big thing you could really prepare for. I mean, some of the countries we'd go to, for example, Turkmenistan, there's less visitors to Turkmenistan than North Korea every year. It's the second least visited country in the world. There was lots of talk of like corrupt policemen and stuff, especially in places like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. That was one of our biggest worries, other than obviously the car just dying. One of our biggest worries was just sort of corrupt police and getting in issues with that. We got information about the floods of Mongolia. So when we were on the rally, there were some massive floods in Mongolia, like all across the country. So we got news of that a lot sooner than anyone else about these floods across like northern and to the east of Mongolia, which is where a lot of teams do their routes. So we kind of shared information on the Mongol Rally closed teams like chat about what was going on, because there were a lot of teams that were ahead of us that were sort of in the midst of it. We were saying, look, northern Mongolia is impassable right now because it's essentially like the wetlands up in the mountains. There's these river crossings that when it rains, it's just a nightmare. So we got information, CloseCircle, I think it was like 3 or 4 days before we heard on anything else. We got news about a terrorist attack on the Pamir Highway that really wasn't well published like in the news or like on BBC where we'd usually look for our news sources. So it sort of meant we adapted our route. We didn't want to spend as much time there, and we sort of made sure we convoyed through the Pamirs, just because it's a bit of a hotbed. Essentially, you're driving across the border of Afghanistan for probably about 200 miles, and it's like trouble is in northern Afghanistan now. There's a lot of bad activity going on there. It's where a lot of extremists have sort of been pushed up north, so it's not quite an unstable region, and they've sort of been pushing through into Tajikistan. So that was really, really useful for us, obviously, hearing about that and adapting our route and sort of letting people know. But yeah, just the sort of the information it gave us, it was great. It really put us at ease, and as well for our parents more than anything, like for them to sort of see where we were all the time, because it's hard to sort of give updates all the time. So any time they could sort of log on and be like, right, this is where they are, this is what they're doing. So that I think was a big, if anything for them, more than it was a really big thing. So yeah, no, it really did put us at ease for some of the risks we had. It was definitely a concern of ours when we were traveling was going to be the reception on some of the roads we were going and in some of these countries. But there's Wi-Fi everywhere, and it was better than we expected in most places. So there was always areas to sort of get connected and get checked in, which is important, just checking in whenever you can. On CloseCircle was really easy, and it just sort of updated our location so we'd still get like the most accurate information and everything we needed. My mum and dad were looking quite a lot. My dad would always be logging on, and they found it really easy to use, especially on the desktop, because that's really easy to track where everyone was. Yeah, no, they were constantly saying it was easy to check. I think my mum doesn't keep any social media or anything like that, so she was that was like her main source of sort of finding out where we were. The updates were especially useful. Like, we'd always check that every day. We'd get obviously on the email and on the app. We really liked that. I think, really the tracking us, especially for the people at home, like my mum and dad, that was probably the biggest feature for them. Luckily, we didn't have to use the SOS button, but I'm sure if we needed to, that would have been a great feature and all that sort of stuff. But knowing that was there, obviously put us at ease a lot. The updates were so important. Like, that was definitely the main thing we relied on. When we're in proximity of an area, they're saying, right, this is happening here. The updates of just seeing what was going on and sort of adapting our routes, because what we found out was really important. So yeah, worked very well. For anyone considering one of these big trips, like traveling abroad in countries maybe they're not 100% certain about, or they've got worries about security and the risks of where they're going, I definitely recommend CloseCircle. The updates we had were just so useful and important, and just really put our mind at ease. Having that SOS button whenever you need it, like God forbid you do, but just having that there was so important for us, and it was lovely. It was great. So yeah.